I didn't have it ready.
You didn't?
I wasn't ready.
You weren't
I wasn't
ready?
ready to dance. I was getting set up still.
I know.
Here we are.
Yes.
And this is why every episode I'm going to say, you better be watching the YouTube because you miss our dancing. Even if you go watch the first 30 seconds for our dancing, at least one point, do it. It's well worth it.
Yeah. At some point
brings joy.
At some point I'll create a mass, compilation of all of our, beginning dancing. Yeah.
That's fun. I like that.
Yeah.
So, welcome back to another episode of Living Luna, where we're all about being our authentic selves and just showing up in the moment, whatever that looks like. And today we are excited to introduce you to Larae Ross, who we met in Sedona. And Larae is just an incredible human, all around fun spirit. And she's just about living life to the fullest, which is, we did that in Sedona. We really lived it up together. We had a lot of fun. So let's bring her on and have a talk.
Yeah.
Boop. Welcome.
Hey guys, how are ya?
Doing pretty good. Lots of movement in life, but I'm excited about everything that's coming down the pike. How about you?
Yes, I am doing great. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be here with you guys. We hadn't really talked or anything since Sedona, and Sedona was so awesome, and it was just so fun hanging out with you guys. I told you, I was like, we're going to be friends. Like, we're going to be friends.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I know. I keep thinking about when am I going to go down to Tennessee and like hang out?
I know this year is going by so freaking fast, and yeah, so it's crazy. I've got like people coming like all this time. I'm supposed to go to Italy in November. Ooh, excited about that. But yeah, I just had so much fun with you guys in Sedona and like learning more about, LGBTQ life.
That life.
That life. Yeah. I really love that about you though, because there are so many people like you in the world that are like, I love everybody, but I don't have any clue how to talk to you respectfully without accidentally like saying something that you're going to take
Yes,
the wrong way.
100%, 100%. And I know we had the whole like binary conversation, like, what does that even mean? Like, and then, what is polyamory? Is that a cult? I don't know.
It might be.
I watch Shiny Happy People, and then I'm like, wait. And so I do
right.
Yeah. I'm like, what's going on? No, but yeah, it was like so cool. Like you guys schooling me and telling me, like explaining stuff, because I feel like a lot of people are in the same boat with me. Like we all want to be respectful, we're open-minded, we don't really care or have judgment, but we just don't know. We're not knowledgeable. And it's like when you were like, I'm a they, and I was like, how does that work? And like I'm down with that, like whatever, but like could you explain this to me so I understand it? And you did a great job, by the way. I really loved the whole it's like Christians, like it's an umbrella, like when you were talking about being queer.
Yeah, the denomination.
The difference between queer and gay, like so yeah, but one thing I told you I had a question, and you'll probably find this comical. So I'm on Facebook dating, and so is a good friend of mine, and it's really just comic relief more than anything. And yeah, it was funny. My friend had messaged me one day, and she was like, girl, this guy just sent me a message and say he's an ethical non-monogamous. And I was like, girl, that ain't a thing. That ain't a thing. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's not a thing. And then, like, no shit, yesterday I was like going through Facebook and I saw one of your posts, and you were like, I can't remember who it was that you had talked to or met with. And you're like, we had this conversation, and you said, like, about
ethical non-monogamy.
Yes. And I was like, oh my God, it is a thing. So I would love an explanation on this.
It's so cute.
Oh my God.
So like an umbrella of Christianity.
Ethical non-monogamy is the umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Polyamory is under that.
Okay.
What, swinging is another one?
Swinging could be under that. Yeah, the ethical part is the key, because the key to the key to everything is ethics, if I'm being real, right? Like, you can literally...
That should be the default, but since the default isn't usually ethical, we have to put the word ethical in front of it so people really get it in their heads.
Oh.
Because let's be real, like, there's a lot of monogamists that aren't ethical, right? They're out having affairs left and right.
Well, true.
They're having the side, they've got the side piece, whatever. Many of us have been there, done that, right? It's not ethical if people don't know about it, if we're not talking. Ethical non-monogamy is the same thing. It's ethically, consensually, with full knowledge and consent between parties, entering into some kind of non-monogamous agreement. So that could be polyamory, like we are in a polyamorous relationship.
Okay, no. I know we talked about this, but I want to make sure I'm on the right page. So polyamory, you have multiple partners. It doesn't have to be like one or the, like, it doesn't have to be all female or all male, or you can just do whatever you want.
Just do whatever you want. So that would be more maybe an open relationship to do whatever you want. But so it's like
this isn't an open relationship then?
Nope.
Girl, this is a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I was telling you guys, I was like, I feel like I need like a class,
Well, here you are. Kenna's like doing some research.
I'm like, Google,
what's the
what are you telling me?
But this is what I teach on mostly a one-on-one basis, but I'm getting into consulting with this because it is an important conversation. Again, just like the LGBTQIA stuff, there's just not a lot of information or knowledge. So an open relationship is another non-monogamous term, but open relationships are usually literally that, like, we're open to whatever, right? So sometimes they will put rules on an open relationship, like you can sleep around with anyone you want, but no emotions. Or it could be just free for all, do what you want, and that could be considered an open relationship. But again, if it's going to be ethical, there needs to be specific agreements on what that means. Polyamory traditionally means multiple relationships, and there are open polyamorous relationships and closed polyamorous relationships. So a closed polyamorous relationship is like, we're in this relationship and right now we're not open to other people coming into relationship with anyone in the system. And then open would be like, some of us or all of us are still open to dating more people, but like there's still an agreement that we're going to talk about like who we're bringing in. So again, the ethical part is about the conversations and the agreements. And then there's different types of polyamory.
Yep. So there's there's like the hierarchical polyamory that is like,
this is my spouse and they will always come before everyone else, which is not how we do it. No. That could be an arrangement if we were like, because we're married, we're more important than the other relationships. But if you hear that, does that sound super ethical to like treat other people as like lesser than? So that's where it's like, it needs to be very carefully discussed to make sure, like, yeah, of course we agree that your spouse comes first, but like, we need this much attention to be to be happily in the relationship. And so there's negotiation there.
There's parallel polyamory, which is like, if I was kind of in that situation with my ex where like you and I are in a relationship, but then I would see them separately.
And we would never like cross hang out. So it was like two parallel relationships. And then what we're in now is called kitchen table poly, where it's like, we're in a relationship, they have another relationship, I have another relationship, and all of us can hang out together at the kitchen table and like have a meal and be good friends.
So, okay. And I hope this isn't like sound dumb or too personal or whatever.
No, it's fine.
But when all four of you guys are, well, all four of you are there together. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm just
entities.
I'm just a little guy. It's fine.
You're just
Bruh, you're bruh.
Bruh.
So when all four of you are together, do you kind of couple up? Like, how does that work? Or
like
is
it's
it just kind of?
often if we're all hanging out, like obviously Kenna's other partner and I and my other partner and Kenna don't have like physical intimacy, though we've all dogpiled on the couch and cuddled during a movie.
Dogpile is not a euphemism.
Not a euphemism here. But like, yeah, I guess when we do seating arrangements, it'll often be like my partner, me, Kenna, other partner, and like kind of so we're all sitting near our partners.
Oh,
But like
gotcha.
that's not always strict. Like, and we're very cozy, but
you'll also hang out on like your computer, and then Kristen and I will like cuddle Justin, even though neither of us are partners with Justin.
But... Right. Justin's a cuddly guy. He's a natural number 2.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's right on. Like right on.
I can just see your like the cogs are turning.
I know. I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it takes a lot of communication, of course.
I was gonna say, well, I remember asking you, like, do you guys get jealous? Like,
monogamous people get jealous all the time. I mean, I just got off a call with a client that was like, man, I'm jealous because my partner got a tattoo, so now I'm going to get a tattoo. I'm like, well, at least you've acknowledged that jealousy is simply a response of like, oh, I want that thing too. And that's all it is. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. If we start to judge jealousy as bad, it gets bad. But if we're like, oh, this is just a signal. This is the emotional cue of I want that too. And then all that means, I always use the example of like, let's say you go to a concert, like Kenna goes to a concert and with Kristen, and I'm like, man, I wish I'd gone to the concert too. I'm jealous. Okay. So I can say, Kenna, could we go to a concert together? Or,
well,
I would really like to do that with you too.
Yeah. Okay. So when I'm talking to jealous, I'm not talking about a concert. I'm talking of like personal, like.
This is an explicit episode. We're just asking questions, Larae. We're gonna.
All right, everyone. So if you have children listening, we are probably going to talk about sex from here on out. So please change the channel if you have people you don't want to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not just that, but also too, like Safriana, you had told me. Well, sometimes there's partners that are, I think you said demisexual, that there's
demisexual.
Or demisexual. See, like, I don't know any of this stuff. So you said demisexual is not a sexual relationship, right?
So, asexual maybe is what we were talking about. So there's people who, I always say, think about sexual orientation and romantic orientation as 2 separate spectrums. Because some people want a romantic relationship, but they're really not about the sex. They just don't have an interest in it. And some people are all about the sex, but they don't want the romance. Most people
want a little bit of both.
The typical people, we'll call them sexual typical. I don't know. Like the majority of people have both romantic and sexual attraction to the same type of people. So they're gonna, if they're straight, they're probably going to want to be in a sexual and romantic relationship with someone of the opposite sex. However, there are lots of people in the world, and we're just now really getting to know this. There are many, many people that don't feel sexual. The asexual spectrum has really been marginalized, honestly, because of compulsory sexuality in society. The belief that if you are a healthy adult human being, you must be in a sexual relationship. But that's not really ethical either, if you think about it.
Well, I mean, I was even like, so I watched an episode. It was an old episode of a show called Private Practice. And that's like a doctor show. And it's like a spinoff off of Grey's Anatomy. And there's one of their first episodes had to do with a man who wasn't being sexual with his wife. And they were like, oh gosh, what sort of psych consult do we need for this guy? And then the thing was, he just has he has like a deficiency somewhere, and now he wants to, have sex all the time. So it's like, oh, okay. So like, if you're not having sex, there is something wrong with you, was like the thing that was being portrayed there. And I mean, I'm sure like, like future episodes, they've incorporated like more of the research based off of that
I
stuff.
hope.
Yeah.
Though again, the ace population, even in the queer community, I remember having conversations with people that were like, well, asexual people aren't marginalized in any way. Nobody judges them.
No,
yeah, we
they
do. We medicalize them and we act like there's
yeah.
something wrong with them if they do not want to have sex. Yes, it could be trauma. Sure. Or it could be that they're just not into that, which is totally valid, because sometimes I think about sex and I'm like, ew.
Wow. So, as women get older, a lot of times they lose their sex drive, but that's not the same thing, right?
That would be like hormonal asexuality, perhaps, over time,
Yeah, it's
right?
like situational asexuality.
Yeah, like our bodies and our sexual orientations can change over time, right? Like that's something that, again, when I teach this to like a company or something, I talk about these different spectrums, because we have our gender expression, right? How we dress. I've changed my gender expression like 50 billion times, right? My fashion's always changing. Sometimes it's more masculine by societal standards, and sometimes it's hyper feminine by societal standards. But that changes throughout our lifespan, right? We can think of fashion changes. So then there's gender identity, right? So whether we identify more with woman or man or neither or both, or so, there's different orientations there. And sometimes that changes because of hormones or because of whatever, getting to know ourselves deeper.
And there's this interesting societal concept, at least one that I've noticed, both, well, me and clients and basically anyone else that's LGBTQ, that we struggle with sometimes, of like, I have to know what I am because I can't change it, or else people are gonna judge me for changing it. And so we get super like really intense in terms of like, I have to figure exactly the term that is meant for me. But if you go about it of like, identity is fluid for everyone, no matter if you're LGBTQ or not, like, again, it's situational. Like you could be a very sexual person when you are in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and then you hit your 60s and you're like, no.
The well's dried up.
And then you're like, yeah. And you're like, yeah, okay. And then you can consider yourself like situationally asexual. And that's fine. And it doesn't mean that you were just, because it's like, people are always, I've heard people say stuff like, oh, you were lying to me then if you like said that you were sexual and now you're not. Like,
yeah, no, we're constantly changing our minds. So yeah, there's plenty of circumstance. I mean, I've known women, I've worked with women who in their 50s realized they didn't want to be with men anymore and chose to go be with women because there was more emotional fulfillment there.
Yeah, that's another thing that's always been confusing to me. I'm like, because I know people that have been married to a man, then a woman, then a man, and it's like, oh, okay. So that's bisexual, or I've heard pansexual. So
those are different. So yes.
Well, it depends on who you ask about the differences.
Know. So in our family, the concept, the way that we define it, is bisexuality is having sexual attraction to two or more genders. And that can, and the gender doesn't mean like you love men and women. Like for me, I consider myself bisexual, but so far men do not make that equation.
At least cisgender men.
At least cisgender men, that equation. Yeah. Like I've been attracted to trans men. But there's like, I've been in relationships with non-binary people, and with women, and with trans men, and like that yet to be in a relationship with a trans woman. I don't know if that will happen ever since I'm currently polysaturated. But
what is polysaturated
You tell her, she's like, wait, what?
I'm like, hold on.
Vocabulary. Polysaturated is a concept that's like you, if you're polyamorous, like you don't have to date everyone you're attracted to.
That would get crazy.
That would get crazy. So it's like recognizing that the people that you are in romantic and sexual relationships with is like you are at the amount that you can handle to be able to fulfill your needs and their needs. And if you were to add anyone else, that would be too much. So polysaturated means I can't.
And a lot of people, monogamous people, maybe that they're saturated at one romantic relationship.
Mhm.
I mean, my other partner is monogamous. So he feels
he tells us all the time, he's like, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, he's like that one is enough for me, thank you very much, like I'm happy, exactly. No polysaturation. So yes, we were I'm trying
okay, I'm sorry. So get on that note, like getting back to my original question that I just got off track on. So as far as like being jealous of like you having another, like you having your relationship with Justin, does Ike, and I know that we kind of talked about this before, like get jealous, and as far as like, and you're giving me a lot to think about here because I'm like thinking of my own shit in my head, like, well, I used to be a big whore and I didn't really want to be in relationships, but I was all about the dick,
And I mean, so that's more of a sexual, you were more sexual.
Yeah. I know. So as you guys are talking, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, okay, what am I? Like, what am I doing?
You can be like, yeah, you can do a timeline of your different fluid identities and show us what you realize you've changed from throughout your life as we provide you with more vocabulary.
Yeah.
But yeah, to answer your question, yes, like jealousy.
Yeah, I mean, duh, like it happens.
Yeah, I mean, and also society places a lot of romanticism on like territorialness. So it's like it's romanticized to be like, this is my partner and like no one's gonna get between me and my partner and I'm gonna protect them and like I'm the one who can satisfy my partner and no one else can, like there's all of this like placement of pride towards the sexual relationship that you have. And so if someone else is able to provide something different or provide anything else that is in the realms of sexuality, whether or not it is similar or different to what you provide, it's like there can be a scarcity model. It can be like, oh well, if they're feeling satisfied sexually with this person, does that mean that they won't feel the need to come to me for sex, sort of thing? Or like this is especially with like here's another term for you, NRE, which is short for new relationship energy. This is for
literally any
anyone.
Relationship.
It doesn't have to be sexual. It can be like that high that you feel when you're making a new connection with somebody. In terms of romantic and sexual relationships, like that can be like the first 3 to 6 months where you're like,
well, it's usually 3 months to 2 years.
Oh well, it can be.
It's about the time that it takes to knock someone up and have the baby. It's it's literally, and I talk about this with clients all the time. Like it is the chemical that says like we're gonna do the family thing. We're gonna like be a unit and we're gonna survive as a species. So this still comes into play in modern like relationships that we have these attachment chemicals.
So maybe that's why like you lose the NRE after 2 years because you're like we
didn't have a baby, so
well no like
or the baby is now survived.
The baby is now 1 to 2 years old, and we need to focus on the baby and not fucking all the time.
Yep.
So
So you're gonna have to focus on the baby and not the fucking.
Yeah.
Sorry, but we have to actually rear this kid that we produced from all the fucking. Yeah. So,
but that's like so you'll our relationship had been established at that point. And we had been dating for longer than 2 years. So like the NRE for us was gone, but then the NRE with her and Justin were, you know, they were transitioning their relationship from a good friendship to romantic and sexual. And I was like, oh my gosh, like just kind of witnessing this, like, you know, this palpable excitement that was happening that I wasn't causing. And so there was a lot of like mixed feelings around like, oh my gosh, he's not like, I'm not making her as excited as he is. And like, you know, and the thing about jealousy is that, especially in polyamory and especially in other relationships, especially, is if you have jealousy and you also mix in the concept of comparison, and also with a nice heavy dose of shame, it causes huge huge spirals. Like it can make it so hard to navigate because and then also if you haven't worked through the concepts of and this is a thing that happens in any relationship, but codependency is a huge thing that can cause issues because it's like, I was struggling, you were struggling with the fact I was struggling, but I wanted you to be autonomous and be able to share what you wanted with Justin. And like, I didn't want any of that to be, I didn't want to get in the way of that. And yet I was still having like meltdowns because of internally I was processing a lot of stuff and being really just struggling a lot. And so like you'd feel like responsible for that even though you weren't. And then it was just
oh yeah, codependency.
Oh yeah, codependency. So it just got to be I remember for probably a good year, it was when they were first together, it was like it wasn't easy at all. Like it was very hard.
Now, were you two married at that point?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Yeah, and that doesn't change anything. Like, you know, people, I've heard that when people are like, oh, well, you know, I'd be willing to be polyamorous once we're married or something. That's the thing, like
marriage does not make anything more secure.
No. Nothing really makes anything more secure. And that's why we have to really do our own self-work to get secure in ourselves, because these sorts of attachment things, like a lot of the themes that we're talking about right now, can happen in friendship. And I get it, like a lot of us get really keyed in on like the sex because there's so much cultural, like, you know, again, one man and one woman, and you know, you have sex with this like one person, and then you like, that's the be all end all. So I know we like to go to sex for an easy example of feeling jealous, but like there are plenty of heterosexual couples that like, oh, you know, the wife has a favorite girlfriend that she's always going out with, or the husband's out with his bros all the time watching football, and like they're not spending quality time together for similar reasons because they're out in relationship with others. So it's really about, and this is for every relationship, I want every relationship in the world to be a designer relationship where the two people, regardless of the relationship type, design that relationship together, and they say, this is what the two of us want together.
And it's not based off of like a lot of us base it off of the structures that society has defined as relationships. So we're like, oh, this is a marriage means, based off of what society has told us, is X, Y, and Z. And then but like we're not you know, like by the time
this episode airs, we're moving away from a traditional relationship structure as a married couple.
Yeah, like we're not
see me
as our camera refuses to look at us. But yeah, like we're like, the concept of marriage equals cohabitating, and we're not going to cohabitate in a couple of weeks. And for a lot of people would be like, oh, are you breaking up with each other? And we're like, no, like, no.
We're so I'm like,
well,
wait, hold on.
A whole emotional experience over here.
So are you guys gonna live like on your own, or are you gonna move in with your other partner?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
so
doing like a nesting
swap.
switch.
Yeah. So
Like
like
a
my
flip.
partner's moving in with me. Safi's moving in with Justin.
The ideal for me is for us all to cohabitate as one big family, but we don't have the space for it
Yeah,
in either house.
Yeah,
so
both
we're
houses
like,
are a little too small for all of us to live there together. But, in the future, it would be nice to like get some land and, create, or find a house that
is
has
big.
enough space for the
My
four of
poly
us.
mansion.
Your poly mansion with the four of us, and then like our like 8 cats, I think.
Oh.
Or
No,
7 cats.
We're at 6 cats.
Are we?
Yes,
So
we're at 6 cats and 1 dog.
Yep, 6 cats and 1 dog.
Wow.
We're outnumbered by pets, which is fine.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm just witnessing.
Lorraine's like still.
I know. I'm like, hold on. I'm still processing.
You're like, I'm still back at the whole jealousy thing that happened like 20 minutes ago.
And that's, coming back to everyone just needs to design the relationship that works for them, because when we get trapped in these traditional structures, this is exactly what we go through. We're like, that can't be possible. But what if anything's possible? What if anything's possible because we agree upon it being possible?
Well, like you had said earlier, like the communication, I guess that's really at the end of the day, that's what makes or breaks that situation.
Yeah. Any relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, most of my people that I work with at this point are monogamous. Some poly people come to me, but and most of them have communication issues in their relationship, and that's why their relationship is falling apart. So the foundations of polyamory are ethical non-monogamy, is like owning your own shit and being willing to talk about your shit with each other so that you can be on the same page with your shit and it not destroy your relationship. But you got to be able to do that, the two of you first, before you start incorporating other people, because that's adding any relationship in is going to highlight the issues that you already have in your relationship.
Yep.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So you can't, like, so many people try to fix things by opening the relationship up, and it always destroys it every single time.
So now, when you two came together and started dating, was it like on the table from the get-go?
I was actually married at the time. I wasn't legally married. I had had a commitment. Married-ish. I was married-ish. We had a commitment ceremony. We were polyamorous. We had met and been polyamorous and then closed our relationship to try and work on the communication issues and done years of therapy. And then we opened our relationship back up. And then I met Ikenna. And then Ikenna was with someone else at the time.
Yep.
But then they broke up. Kenna moved in. And then my prior partner moved their other partner in. And that was just not... It's not a good situation. There was lack of communication that came back up, and it destroyed the relationship ultimately.
Yeah. And I mean, and I went into the relationship with Safriana, like initially. Well, I opened up the relationship with all of the wrong reasons.
Yes,
like that was rough.
Yeah, they're literally the textbook case of, we're gonna open our relationship to save it, and then it literally imploding.
Oh
yeah, like we're opening up the relationship because everything, like the only red flag is like a need that's not being met in our relationship that another relationship could bring in,
until you go get in another relationship and you realize, like, oh, there's like all of these issues here that we now see because this other relationship provides a different baseline. So it can be really, 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 really dangerous to get into a polyamorous or an ethically non-monogamous situation, without knowledge, because it can't be ethical without that communication and that like basic 101.
Well, I grew up in a real religious family, so, and it was one of those, you don't have sex before marriage, like it's only man and woman, blah blah blah. So I do know I have like certain things in my head that it's just, it's not necessarily, I wouldn't say, it's just what's the norm in my head, So all this to me is, and I used to think I was like a little freaky deaky kind of, and I'm like, oh no, I'm pretty straight laced.
I don't know. Listen, okay, so there can be like some real freaky, kinky, like
heterosexual
monogamous people. Yeah.
Well, so, but that's not really where I was going with that. What,
we're
so
trying to drag you there.
I know. I'm just like all over the place. So I had a friend that was in an open marriage. And for me, I was always like, I don't get it. Like, that doesn't make sense. And she had a boyfriend, and she would bring her boyfriend and the husband, like, they go to parties, it kind of sounds like what's going on with you. But in my head, like, I'm fine with everybody doing whatever, but in my head, I'm like, I could never do that.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And that just means, okay, you're not polyamorous, or you're not non-monogamous. That's what that means. It's like Kenna cannot really imagine sleeping with a man.
Yeah.
With, full of desire.
Yeah.
Nope.
I can. They can't. Like, I therefore date a man and they don't, right? Like, we get to decide. We all have our own different preferences. And what I think is most important is that everyone is given the option to at least think about it. I think this is really relevant. There's a huge conversation happening politically right now about not teaching LGBTQIA terminology in school because it is, quote, grooming them to become that, which is not true, because we just proved it. We're like, hey, Larae, there's this whole option. You can have relationships, and you can do, and you're like, no, I don't want that. But it's an option. Like, you tell a queer kid to be straight, and they'll try because it's survival. You tell a straight kid to be gay, they're going to be like, what the hell are you talking about, right? Because they don't have that marginalization of threat of harm because they're straight. Right. So we need to normalize everyone being given the option to know, oh, monogamy is an option, non-monogamy is an option, being straight is an option, being gay is an option, but we're not going to take an option if it's not authentic to us.
Yeah, I feel like it's just, we need to get to the place where everybody can have their own option and do whatever the fuck they want. Yes. And I hate that there's so much conversation around it. And, like, I remember when the transgender bathroom thing was all over the place. It was like, who gives a fuck? Like, why is this such a big deal? And, people are like, well, people are going to be getting raped in the bathroom. And I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Who's raping who? Like, yeah. So I do know, because I grew up, like I said, in a religious family in the South. And so there's this way of thinking, and it's just like so closed off and not open to, a different way. And so, I'm really striving to not be that, I want to be more open-minded. I want everybody to be included, and I don't feel like people should be left out because of who they want to have sex with, or who they want to be in a relationship with, or, what they want to wear, or, whatever. And so I've really enjoyed, like, talking with you too, and you just being so open to explain stuff to me, because I'm like, okay. I got no problem with it. I just don't understand it. And I don't know, like, when it comes to pronouns and things like that, I never want to be offensive to anybody, but I know a lot of people are like me, and they just don't know, and they just don't understand. So I think it's great to have conversations about these kind of things. Because, like I said, when my friend was about the whole non-ethical monogamy, I was like, that's not a thing, girl. That's not a thing. Like, no.
Actually, yeah.
So I'm gonna have to go back to her and be like, okay, actually, it is a thing.
Sorry, consulted with a professional and it's yes.
I've
Well, I
talked to
mean,
a professional. It is a thing.
I think the thing that's so beautiful about conversations like this is the fact that, like, you're showing, just like, there's a bunch of people like you who want to learn more, but, like, there's also a lot of people in the LGBTQ plus community who, um, have been traumatized a lot by people who have invalidated their experiences. So, like, sometimes what we witness is people who are genuinely curious and don't have the language to ask the questions, and then the people who are, very vulnerable and traumatized, being the ones that they come to ask. And those people, like, will get triggered and upset and, like, be like, "You're saying this all wrong. How, just, why do you keep messing up?" And all of this sort of thing. And it's like, these, like, the people who are not in the LGBTQI plus community don't know these things. And so the fact that they're basically just at the beginning of learning something completely brand new to them, that you have, like, thought about, like, especially in, like, people who are cis, straight, and, like, monogamous, or just cis and straight, like they are not thinking about this sort of stuff, versus the people who are LGBTQ plus have been researching it, like just completely integrating themselves into this frame of mind. And so it's like, there's this TikTok trend that happened, like, literally probably months ago, that it equals like 80 years
They
of
come
TikTok
and go.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those TikTok trends.
Yeah, but it was like, the phrase was, "Oops, I accidentally created my own reality." And it's like, people in the LGBTQI plus community surround themselves so much with LGBTQI plus stuff, that when someone from the general public is not informed and comes into those spaces, or comes up to them and asks genuine questions, coming from a place of, like, "Hello, I don't understand this, but I'm, like, I just am coming from a place of wanting to learn more." It's like, got to give people the benefit of the doubt and just offer the information, or have resources to, like, be like, "Hey, if you're interested in learning more about this stuff, like, I don't necessarily have the energy to give you all of the information today, but here's some more books and, webinars and workshops and infographics and stuff like that regarding this topic."
Yeah, and it's really what is important. And Larae, like, we are a resource.
Mhm.
Not everybody, and this goes for any population, like we could be talking about Black and African, right? Sometimes someone is so in their trauma about something that they cannot educate. They do not have the emotional resources to educate, because again, they're still so actively in their trauma. And so resources like us exist. Resources exist for, ethical race education, and there are resources, but we have to be willing to, like, reach out and start the conversations with people to find these things out. So, again, you're a trendsetter in this way of just, like, being open to asking the questions and, like, finding the people that can answer it again, a consensual, open, like, yeah, we're in the joy of having this conversation, instead of it being, like, triggering and activating.
Mhm.
It's a
Yeah.
very different energy.
Yeah, I have a trans friend. Well, I used to be in a writing class with a trans woman, and she was an amazing writer, and she was writing memoir stuff, and so I just loved it because I felt like I was learning from her without having to be like, okay, and then what happens? Um, but yeah, and my friend River, he's a trans man, um, and he had before he transitioned, he was married to a man, and I was like, this is so confusing. Like, wait, so were you straight then? Like, and he was really good about answering my questions too. And so I yeah, I know a lot of people aren't open to it because it's not part of their reality, but I think one of the big things that opened my mind, I mean, I've always been pretty open about stuff, but is I moved to California, and it's a whole different world in California. And, there everybody is just allowed to be whatever the fuck they want to be and do. And I loved it. When I moved back to Tennessee a few years ago, that was one of my big concerns. Is like, I just don't want to move back where people are racist and prejudiced and, so judgy and all this shit. Like, I loved that about California, that you could be whoever the fuck you wanted to be and nobody gave a shit, And so when I moved back here, I was like talking to my realtor and I was like, girl, now here's the thing. Like, I don't want to be in a place where, people are being judged and people are racist and all this stuff. And, she was like, well, you're going to have a little bit of that everywhere you go. But, in Chattanooga, it's kind of progressive. And, she said, you've got obviously pockets of that. But as a whole, it's, more of an open-minded place. And so she was a lesbian. So I was like, okay, well, I trust you. Like, if you say, it's like, you're a lesbian, so I trust you on this.
I love
So,
that.
but yeah, it, and moving back here, it's a lot different. I was in California for almost 15 years, and Tennessee and North Carolina, I mean, they're not that much far apart, it's kind of the same. So I do see a difference. And then, I don't feel like, I mean, it still exists, obviously, but I feel like people are coming around slowly. I mean, not everybody.
There's the vocal minority.
What's that?
There's the very vocal minority.
Oh, yeah. 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 And yeah, I want to get rid of that mindset, I really don't like it.
Yeah.
And so anyway.
Yeah, I mean the thing about mindset change is that it is it's we want it to be immediate, like a light switch.
Mm-hmm.
And just know that the more questions that you're asking, the more you're going to be building up that metaphorical mindset change muscle. And yeah, so like just know that that's the mindset that you're working with right now. And so like continue to do that work. You're continuing to do amazing work in terms of just gathering more information and asking questions. And I am glad that we found each other, because it's such a nice way to be able to show people the sort of conversations you can have and it not be a triggering one for people.
Yeah.
Like, you can ask the questions and we can answer the questions, and
you can ask follow-up questions and we can answer the follow-up questions.
Yeah.
And we have the emotional energy to do so. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you for asking the questions.
Yeah. Well, I've been talking about getting my podcast going for like a long time. So once I get it up and running, I'll have to have you guys.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We will gladly inform your audience of all kinds of stuff that you would want to talk about.
Oh yeah. And I mean, if I might need to like figure out some questions to ask you.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We need to come poke your brain about some things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on and having a conversation with us today. So you're getting your podcast up and going, hopefully in the future. Is there any other way that you invite people to reach out, chat with you, anything like that?
I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Instagram, not really that much though. So, I'll have to be really honest. I've had social media issues, and so in this last year, when I did the one book, and so you kind of have to address that in that process because you're trying to promote yourself, and that doing that book, it's so crazy how it is like been a snowball effect and like changed so many different things, and it brought like shed light to my own issues and stuff like that. So all that to say is the social media thing was a real big one for me. I used to be like, why are people on that? They're just on there for likes and da 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 da. And and then I had a friend that's like, no, I mean, it depends. You can use it however you want to use it. Like if you want to use it for likes, you can. But if you're want to use it to spread awareness or, to just share your story or whatever. And I used to not like to take pictures of myself or, have, so that's another hurdle I've had to go. But anyway, all that being said, so I do have an Instagram, which I don't do a lot on. But yeah, most of my stuff's on Facebook, which is really just my personal, like, whatever bullshit. Um, like, hey, I went rafting today, guys.
But that's fun, and that's that is
That's
how
you.
we build trust with people and relationships with people, is by showing up authentically and getting to know each other. And yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you for your vulnerability today. I would love to have more conversations with you. And
Oh, for sure.
for now,
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm so glad that you guys had me on. Like, when Ike first asked, I was like, I don't think you want me on your podcast.
we do.
We
love
do.
talking
You're
to you.
awesome.
We do.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad you guys had me and that we've been able to have this conversation. And I know there's going to be more conversations. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm super pumped.
Well,
Awesome.
until next time.
Do we
Thank you
get to
very
do a
much.
dance off? Like, dance our way out?
Yeah.
Just lots of weird dances.
Yeah. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing here.